Do you ever walk away from conversations feeling like you have to go over everything over and over again in your head, not really sure if you said the right things, or you feel kind of awkward, or maybe you didn't feel like you showed up fully as yourself? If so, don't worry, you're not alone. I also have social anxiety that I deal with, so I totally get it. And one thing that I have found is really helpful is being able to connect and showing up authentically. And as awkward as it feels and seems sometimes, I've really learned that when I am just showing up fully as myself, that people get that, they feel that, they accept that a lot more if I'm just trying to do and say all the right things and make the right amount of eye contact and all of these little, social rules and norms. If I just show up as myself, I get a much better result. So today I'm going to talk with you about how to achieve that result in your conversations, overcoming the fear, being able to show up vulnerably, connecting with the other person, listening with empathy. There's a lot of things that we can cover that will really help in these situations. So to get started, I'm Melissa, and I talk about all things living authentically and self-actualization. So if you want to live a more authentic life, feeling more like yourself, feeling more like your true self, waking up feeling full of life and ready to go, this is a great place to be visiting often. So just like and subscribe and you'll get more of this content. As animals, we have evolved to really feel the need to fit into circles, to be in groups so that we're protected, so that we eat, so that we can look out for each other and work together as a community. And a result of that is that we come into our conversations now feeling like we're going to be judged, afraid of saying the wrong thing, afraid of being too much, afraid of being awkward. A lot of things that disconnect us from just showing up authentically and letting our heart be open and shining our light in the way that it likes to shine. So it's not just you, it happens. It happens to the best of us. But the reality is that your uniqueness is your gift. And the thing that you fear is showing up too much, it might be exactly what someone is needing to hear or see or feel. And not only that, but I mentioned this a lot, which is when you show up authentically as yourself, imperfectly and vulnerably in all the ways, it gives others permission to do the same thing. So authenticity breeds more authenticity, right? The more people see you just being comfortable in your own skin, just being yourself, saying what you feel, owning the anxiety, the anger, the excitement, the fear, the love, the joy, owning all of it, and just showing up with it and putting yourself out there, it really does inspire other people to do the same, which is great because in community, the more other people around you are feeling this way, the more it grows and the bond grows, and you really just create space, start building those muscles, start feeling more safe to just be yourself. So you might be asking, I don't even know who my authentic self is. How do I even know who that is so that I can show up in that way? And, that just takes reflection and it takes time. It's a process of uncovering what isn't you. And the more that you do that by doing your shadow work, by working through whatever you need to work through in your life, the more you do that, the more you face yourself and face your shadows and face the reality of your life, the more it comes to the surface and it's just really obvious. But a way that you can reflect right now on that is what's something I've always wanted to share but haven't? What's something that I feel strongly about, but I'm afraid that other people will judge me if I say it out loud? Because a lot of times other people are feeling that same thing. And then when you say it out loud, they're like, oh, me too. And then you actually bond on that thing instead of pushing people away. And most people aren't looking for friends or people to be exactly like them. They like the variety. I know personally, I like to have a variety of people in my life, a variety of ages, backgrounds, ethnicities, expression of self. I just like to have a variety of people in my life because that's how I learn and grow and enjoy the spice of life, right? The variety. So people aren't expecting you to be just like them. They're just want you to be you. And, your story, your perspective, your voice, those are your superpowers. It's really funny because, I've got a little sassy side. If you've been seeing these videos, you've probably seen that. But I have a bit of a sassy side, and I am very kind, compassionate, loving person. I have a really big heart. And my sassy side is a little sarcastic, a little I don't know how to explain it. And you listening actively really helps people to feel seen and validated, just like it does for yourself when people are really listening and paying attention to what you have to say. Again, just having this presence in your conversations, it brings an authenticity there, because again, you're not ruminating in your head and trying to figure out what's next, and in the anxiety of trying to fit in or worrying about being judged. And just let the other person talk. Listen. If you're worried about what you're going to say, invite the other person to continue to share, and listen with an open heart and an open mind and a clear, focused attention on what they're saying. And of course, that empathy really comes into play with that. And another thing that really helps is vulnerability. It builds trust. It creates meaningful connections. It lets people know that you're not afraid to show up and bear parts of yourself that may be seen as different or weird or strange or off-putting or whatever, but just lets people know that you embrace your imperfections, and you're more concerned about being real than being perfect. And that, again, gives them permission to not be perfect. When they're like, oh, she knows she's flawed and she's showing up anyway. Like, she must have space for my flaws too. And that really, or he, or who, whoever you are. But that really, the vulnerability really helps people to connect with you. And the more that this connection deepens and is happening, the more your authentic self just starts to show up, because there's comfort and there's safety there. And it just happens naturally because you're present in the conversation. So you're in more of a flow state than a contrived, planned out, anxious version of a conversation, right? But it's also important to be open to feedback, refine how you show up in your conversations. If someone says, I really appreciate that you share your opinion, but sometimes it feels kind of harsh or abrupt, then consider that. Maybe they're being sensitive, but maybe you are. Maybe your tone isn't what you think it is, and that you're coming across in a different way. I know I can do this sometimes. Because of my humor, a lot of times too, like, I'll have a response to somebody that I'm just like taking advantage of the punchline. I just think it's kind of funny. I'm like speaking from my heart and saying what I feel, and sometimes it just comes out kind of abrupt and like harsh, and I don't mean it that way in my heart. Like, that's definitely not how I mean it, but I can understand that from someone else's perspective. Like, I speak in shorthand a lot of times, and they don't know all the backstory and everything else is behind it. They're just getting this very simplified thing that's coming out of my mouth, and that can be off-putting, or it can make people feel like they're not being seen or heard. So, like, when someone gives you feedback on those kinds of things, listen to it. It doesn't mean you need to be ashamed of yourself or embarrassed or apologize or over-explain. Just listen to it and keep it in mind, and notice yourself if you are doing that. Kind of see where you're doing that and maybe how you can correct that and step back. I know recently it happened in a situation for me that someone had expressed some feelings towards me, and I had not really considered it before, and my response came out to be kind of insulting and rude, and it didn't mean to be. I was just joking around about this thing that we always joke around about, and I just thought it was kind of funny, but it really ruined the moment. It really ruined the moment and made that person kind of withdraw and see like that there was a risk of being hurt. And that sucks. That's not the intention that I had. It's not the result that I was looking for. And I can see now how just being a little too abrupt kind of harmed that situation. If I had like lessened the anxiety and taken a deep breath and considered what they were saying and being more present in what they're saying, I would have responded differently, and I would have gotten a much different result from the conversation. So that I could do about that now, but just continue to show up being myself and hope for the best, right? But as always, I'm going to give you some practical tools for this. One way is to start small. It's always start small, just with that one honest thought or feeling in your conversation, and just see how it goes. And if you notice that you're doing that and there's a specific person who's always having a harsh reaction to it, take note of that. Notice how some people are really accepting and loving and appreciate the vulnerability, and how some people are offended and whatever. And it's just information. It's information for you to gather about the people that you're in relationship with, about how you want to be in relationship with people, something to be aware of and be honest with yourself about moving forward. Understanding like that your voice matters and that you have something valuable to share. Like, we're all here with our own unique codes, our own unique experiences, ideas, perspectives. And when we get out of the trying to fit in thing, then and we start showing up authentically, that like our unique voice starts to come out, and it's valuable. There are people who need to hear what we have to say. Otherwise, we wouldn't be prompted to say it. So it just kind of is a natural evolution. The more you start to practice being authentic and showing up fully and being mindful in your conversations, the more you just start showing up authentically, and it just expands. After a conversation, you can ask yourself, instead of going over it over and over and over in your head, what did I do wrong? What did I say that was weird? Oh, I should have said that differently. Instead, be like, when did I feel most authentic in that conversation? You know, find the similarities in that. Find the common threads when you're having this and you're saying, when was I most authentic? See what you were doing or what you were saying or how you were feeling in that moment. Where did I hold back and why? Was it because I was afraid of their response? Was it because I was trying to control their perception of me? Was it because I was trying to manage their feelings or emotions? Like, why did I hold back? Where did I hold back and why? So just going back into your conversations, it's a great way to learn. Like, all of this stuff, it's a muscle. It's something that we're exercising and using more and more. It's important, you know, when you show up authentically, and it does start refining your relationships. You will start to notice there's people that I can't be my authentic self around. And sometimes you'll be like, great, those are my party people. I will party and go out to the bars and have fun with those people. Awesome. Or maybe you're like, I just always want to feel like I can be unmasked and be my authentic self. And you decide, I just don't want to spend as much time with those particular friends. That's okay too. It's all about what's going to help you to feel like you are giving yourself space to show up authentically. Create that trust within yourself, with your inner child, with your current self, with your teenager self. Just create that trust of, you can be yourself. I'm going to create space for you to be yourself no matter what. And it's going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. Because what you will notice is that the relationships where your authentic self is appreciated will start to grow closer. And you'll start to attract in people who also like to show up authentically and who appreciate that space of authenticity that you're holding. And your relationships in general will improve. And like with anything, sometimes things get worse before they get better. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but it's a possibility that some friendships start to fall away that may be uncomfortable for a while. But sit in that discomfort and knowing that there is a payoff, because showing up authentically is what it's about. Like, it's you getting to be you. And the more you can do that in your conversations and in your relationships, the more your life just exudes this authenticity and this self-expression, because you're supporting it. You're putting the things in place to support this authentic self-expression. I'm going to leave you with a journaling prompt. Y'all know I have a love-hate relationship with journaling. If you know, you know. If you've been here, you know. But I'm going to leave you with a journaling prompt, and you can do with it what you will. So think about a recent conversation where you felt truly authentic. What made that possible? Now, think about a time where you held back. What fears or beliefs stopped you from expressing yourself? In both of these situations, how might you show up knowing what you know? How might you show up differently next time? So just take some time to reflect on that. Ask yourself those questions and see what comes from it, you know? Authenticity in conversation, it's about showing up as your true self. Even if it feels vulnerable, it's not about being perfect. Don't forget, it's about being real, not perfect. It is rewarding to be real, because you just feel this ease and this comfort in your body, in your life. You really it starts to open up in your world more and more of what's true for you and true for your soul. And the more you see that, the more you can live into it and develop a life around it, the more at peace and happy and expressed you're going to be. Try the journaling prompt. Share your thoughts in the comments. Let me know. Have you had some of these awkward situations? Do you have some things that you can share with us to reflect on? And also, like, share some ways that you're going to practice this authenticity in your next conversation. I would love to hear from you. And so, yeah, thank you for watching this. I put together a 5-minute meditation for showing up authentically in your conversations. If you want to follow up with that, it will be down here somewhere in one of these boxes. And I'll see you next time. Stay authentic. Aloha.